EBOLA! EBOLA! Hey up, Chucks, and welcome to Magic Morning Wood with me, Anthony Wrong, and my regular host down there. Hello, who are you?
Oh, that's me. Ron. I don't know what accent are we doing? I don't know.
I was
I
not. You
just,
accidentally did a good
oh,
one.
is that great? Yeah.
Yeah.
What is it?
Oh, it's Hong Kong, isn't it?
Is that
Yeah.
Liverpool, Manchester?
Hong Kong. It's Hong Kong.
Hong Kong.
Yeah.
I
And
see.
anyway, we got a guest over there. Who are you?
Yep. Mr. Alfie Elkins.
There we go. So it's
Not a lot of
Clive
people know that.
and Alfie Elkins.
Hmm.
See, I can tell Nick's kind of pleased he got away with that because I always he's he's always kind of disgusted when I come up with a fake name because it puts him under pressure to do the same thing.
Yes,
And
yes.
very
And
rarely has anything prepared. So I'm
I'm
quite
never
happy
prepared.
with Alfie Elkins. That's not bad.
Yeah, well, it was because I had a moment because you went to Ron first, so I was able to panic and do something. But
Anyway,
anyway.
so so the reason Nick is here, other than we quite like him, apart from his atrocious body odor, which we can't notice over this side of the
Yeah,
No,
it's
no,
always
and
been
I
anyway,
am
right?
working on it. I'm working on it, gents. So
Yes,
next time we meet in person, it shouldn't be as room clearing as it normally is.
is although there's no one in your room, I noticed.
Well, I mean,
It's
obviously.
packed with people. Yeah, is when I mentioned my choice, Nick was like, "Oh, you must let me get involved with this," and he was all over
Mhm.
it. But of course, he has to watch both films, so he's here to join us today for our reactions to the last film we talked about was the Category 3 uh, Hong Kong film Wild at Heart,
Okay.
which Ron was particularly fond of,
Mhm.
if I remember correctly.
Is this true, Ron?
No, it wasn't.
No.
But
Okay.
you hated it too, Clive.
It wasn't great. I didn't hate it like you did, but it was not good.
Well, I would say it was kind of the same. It was just sort of like, okay. Yeah, it was,
I'm,
yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
assuming that Nicolas Cage in a snakeskin jacket does not appear in that version.
No, no,
No.
No.
Okay, all right.
But that was a reaction to this Nicolas Cage one.
yes,
So,
yes, we
yes.
did.
Okay.
Yeah,
Um,
we did that
so
one too.
anyway, but it got us on track. That what it did, it was a pivot point, and it got us onto category 3.
Mm.
So I decided to go with that
Can
connection.
you, sorry, just for all of our viewers out
Yes.
there that don't really know what that means, me, what
Mhm.
exactly does category 3 mean?
Well, bad memory. See previous
Don't pay
podcast.
attention to you.
I know. We really need to sort out this bronchitis of ours.
I've got COVID.
So
Uh-huh.
category 3, basically, for the uninitiated, i.e. Ron, and he still won't
Mm.
listen this time, so I don't know why I'm fucking bothering,
Mhm.
was a category system. Here we go. See? Brought in the 80s, so it could deal with films primarily with more sex and nudity, but it also allowed for more violence and more controversial content,
Gore.
and even things like triad films. You weren't allowed to show details of triad, um, stuff like that.
And
Anyway,
is this still a thing? Is it still category 3? Do they still have those categories now?
no, I doubt you have much Cat 3 now because Hong Kong's Chinese, right? So
They've
you
locked
might
down
get,
all that craziness.
So they don't
yeah,
do those types of movies anymore?
not
China?
really, no.
Oh.
No.
The crazy Hong Kong film that Hong Kong was famous for decades is kind of, well, I mean, and there are still kind of interesting films made both in Hong Kong and in China, actually, but they're a different, they're a different beast, right? They're a
Mm.
different kind of thing.
And Anthony Wong has gone very straight compared to
Yeah,
his
I
like
can't imagine
he's a
something
much
like,
more venerable gentleman than he was in the heyday of the heady early
I
90s.
can't imagine Ebola syndrome being made in the current climate. So,
No, and
yes.
and I mean, there's a bunch of, I mean, I don't know, there's a bunch of other titles that you may get to later on, but there's lots of great,
Well,
like
that's the thing. So
Run and
once
Kill is
I
It's
chose Wild at Heart
fun.
just because I was looking for a thing, and then there's a Cat 3 film called Wild at Heart, and because this is all about reactions, I wanted to pivot towards Cat 3 in general because I want to talk Cat 3, and I doubt, you never know, but Ron might stumble across a Cat 3 film himself one day. But so this was so that as a reaction, it gave me an excuse, and I had a list. I was like, okay, which Cat 3 film do I do? And the two at the top of the list were same director actor team, and they were either the one we did choose or The Untold Story.
Right.
And it was a close run thing, but see, Ron thinks I just choose things to annoy him, but no, in this case, I deliberately chose the one I thought Ron would enjoy more. So we'll see how that turns out. But The Untold Story, and I thought Ebola Syndrome is a little bit closer to like a good time exploitation film. I mean, they're both fairly grim, but Untold Story is like even more grim.
Yes.
So I wanted to give Ron a fun night out at the pictures, and I'd cut a hole in the bottom of my popcorn and let him reach
As
in.
you do.
You know, show him a good time. I like to do that every now and again.
And how did we get to Alfie? That's in some ways I'm even more interested to know.
Well, that's Ron's reaction to Wild at Heart, which is Playboy.
I forget. Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Playboy protagonists. Yeah. So because I had no connection to anyone connected to cast or crew with Wild at Heart, so I kind of went thematically.
I'm the one keeping all this together.
Yeah.
But that's interesting because we'll obviously, as we unpack the films, I would say that Alfie, which I hadn't, I have to the mea culpa here or whatever the fuck, I haven't seen Alfie before.
All right.
Yeah, actually, I'd never seen it before either. So
I have seen
it's quite famous, and like the last speech and the song, "What's It All About, Alfie?" Like I knew all that stuff, but I'd never actually seen the actual movie. So yeah,
and I do love, I love Michael Caine of that era, and particularly the name is not coming to me right now, but the famous gangster film, Clive. We read the book. Get Carter. Yeah, that's I think a high watermark of British cinema. But I would say, comparing Ebola and this, I found Alfie to be much more depressing, and I found like as a comedy, I think honestly they're both comedies, in some weird, disturbing way. But I think Alfie,
they are both comedies. Yeah, so
I think Alfie is the more unsettling comedy.
Yeah, I guess in some ways it's actually grimmer. Yeah, I can see it.
Ebola is actually the more lighthearted, and this time watching it, I really, really got that side of things like more. But I guess which are we going to talk about first? Are we
Ebola.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Although just one more note about Alfie before we actually get to Alfie is I can't watch Michael Caine movies now without thinking about The Trip.
Right.
Yeah, without thinking about those two guys like doing like battling Michael Caine impressions.
Right. Yeah, we'll have to try and kind of resist doing that because it could ruin the whole show.
Or make
not bad.
No, I'm warming up. I do actually have I have a joke. I have a Michael Caine joke which requires doing the Michael James voice. We'll see if we get there or not. Anyway, so first we're doing Ebola Syndrome. Yes, from 96. Directed by Herman Yao, written by Chow Ting, produced by that
which is the same. Sorry, just to clarify, these are the same director, producer, or writer, whatever that did the Wild at Heart.
No. So
what's the connection there?
Just
what's the connection there again? I missed it.
It's just a category 3 thing.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay,
but
so that's a pretty loose connection then.
It is indeed. But how else am I going to get you to watch Ebola Syndrome? So yeah, they came from. So Herman Yao directed Anthony Wong in this notorious category 3 film called The Untold Story, based on a real life murder case, which Ebola Syndrome is kind of a weird semi-remake.
It's a reworking of it. Yes.
Yeah, and they did another category 3 based on the headlines film called Taxi Hunter. I don't know if you've seen that one, Nick.
I don't know if I have. Maybe
that's also a good one. That's also a good one.
And Red to Kill jumps out as being one of the more.
Yeah, but that's not Herman Yao. See, I didn't choose that for Ron because I didn't think Ron would enjoy that as much.
Yes.
Which one?
Red to Kill.
Red to Kill. Okay.
That's a bit too sexy good times for you. Because Ron put his little foot down after Wild at Heart. He was like, "We're not watching any more naked people in films," he said. So
I don't believe I said that.
Well,
said,
something along those. That's what I heard. That's what I heard.
Okay.
It's just like it was basically just a soft core.
Okay.
Wild at Heart. So I was like, I don't really think we're getting anything out of these types of movies. They're all kind of.
Well, he's not. I am, but it is true though, because the discussion doesn't necessarily, because Ron's
it doesn't really go anywhere, right? So we're trying to find things that are actually we can talk about.
So we've been doing this for a few years now, so we kind of know, like, well, I might want to talk about this, but the thing is, the other person isn't. So,
I don't have much to say.
So we both kind of deliberately censor our.
Right.
You've come in the middle of a dysfunctional marriage. That's the thing.
Ah, I see.
Yeah.
I'm the Terrence.
You come in to kind of re-spice up our bedroom.
Right.
Yeah, basically, Ron's in the sanatorium, and you're there, and I'm visiting, but I'm being possibly, kind of. I might, Yeah,
we're getting ahead of ourselves. That's the next one. Michael Caine territory, yes.
Anyway, so Ebola Syndrome, starring the great Eurasian actor Anthony Wong.
Yes, and this is him at, I think, the height of his powers. I think if you asked someone's racist grandmother to make a film about like Hong Kong and like what they think about Chinese restaurants and stuff like that, this is the film that they would make.
Yeah.
That thing that this time just jumped out at me. It was like, oh my God, like this film seems like it was like bankrolled by people who like.
Yeah, I think this is one of those films, like, if anyone takes offense at this film, they're not getting the joke. Right? That's the thing. It's like, it's such a trolling movie. It's unbelievable. Like,
it's ramped up to 12.
Plus, we are watching the full uncut version, which is now available, which is quite difficult.
I definitely noticed that. I definitely, there was points where I said, "Oh, I don't remember this scene dragging on quite so long." Or yes, in fact, the whole scene where somebody's face is peeled. I think either is like, did I just blank that out the first time I watched it? Because this time I was like, I had to look away once or twice because I had imbibed in some substances that were making me more sensitive.
To be honest, it's funny. So Herman Yao, apparently, when Vinegar Syndrome put together this 4K, apparently he was against putting some of the stuff that they cut back in. And I kind of understand why a little bit, because even though it still works really, really well, because those bits are so extreme, they occasionally stop you from taking the film seriously as a thriller, right? Because you're just going, oh, for fuck's sake, you're just taking the piss now, kind of thing. So I kind of understand, as a director, he might want the cut version might just play, because it goes up to the line and doesn't quite step over it. Whereas the uncut version steps over the line again and again and again. Like, it doesn't even know the line is there.
In that way. Like, when you see RoboCop uncut in a strange way, it's more ridiculous. And the kind of it verges into just almost into comic territory.
Oh, I didn't know they had an uncut RoboCop.
Yeah, the scene of like Peter Weller getting blasted to pieces is way grosser and longer.
Oh, really?
More silly in some.
I haven't seen RoboCop in years. So.
But then again, RoboCop is supposed to be a satire, right? In the same way,
I would argue that I think
I'd buy that for $1.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I do think that so is Ebola Syndrome, and that's what came through to me loud and proud this time. Is that this is a very black comedy?
Yeah, possibly, or that might just be Herman Yao's vision, kind of. I think he might have been just trying to make a straight up kind of gross thriller, but.
Okay.
Yeah, but anyway, that's something to be debated. So anyway, we start off 1986 Hong Kong, and Anthony Wong is. What I like about Anthony Wong's character is he's just fucking horrible from like the beginning.
Yeah,
there's nothing.
Disgusting.
There's like
And he's
nothing redeemable about this guy.
and he's so good at doing it. That's the thing. And that's what that was his shtick in Hong Kong film for the longest time. And then at a certain point, he decided, I'm not doing that anymore. And then he started doing more low key, as in the Infernal Affairs trilogy, which was remade as The Departed, for example, and stuff like that. And the thing is, he's really good at that as well. Like he's really
Yes.
good at doing low key and
Well,
but this is what he's still famous for, is him just being over the fucking top, right?
because it's so committed. Like it's
Yeah.
such a committed performance. It's out fucking rageous.
Because he's all, even when he doesn't have to be, he's sniffling and wiping
Yeah, he's
his
so
nose.
disgusting.
Actually,
he's like horrible.
I realized that upon rewatching it, I haven't seen this since COVID. And I remember just thinking to myself, oh, this is why I took the COVID stuff seriously. This is why I was masking up, because in some part of the recesses of my brain, I was remembering scenes of Anthony Wong just like blasting little pre-CGI molecules of Ebola everywhere.
From his like inside his
Wiping
mouth,
his
right?
nose and spitting
It
on
is a
people.
very different film. It plays very different post-COVID. It has to be said.
Post-COVID, yeah.
I was just in the supermarket earlier today, and someone had a bit of a coughing fit, and you can just feel everyone just kind of
Tense up.
tenses up and has a look in the way that they didn't before, right? Yeah. So he's fucking his boss's Xing Fuyon, another legend of Hong Kong cinema, fucking his wife. He comes home, finds them, and of course is very, very angry, tries to cut his dick off, gets the wife to piss on him to wake him up, which is one of those straight up, you're like, oh, okay, this film's kind of going for it, right? It's like unnecessarily
gross.
Yeah, it's great. Anyway, so
and I do like this is a through line through the whole film. Anthony Wong's character is constantly like complaining of being bullied and kind of this kind of sniveling, cowardly, they're all mean to me, fuck you. And then he just that was disgusting, outrageous, awful shit that you're like, yeah, I don't feel sorry for you, buddy. In that way, and I know Clive loves it when I bring up Thomas Millian, but it did remind me of Almost Human a little bit. There's something in that same sniveling scumbag who, like, once he has the opportunity and the power, is going to go for it in the worst possible way. But yeah,
anyway, he runs away. He runs away.
After he murders, so he murders everyone. He murders the boss.
Pretty much kills everyone. He almost kills the little girl, who later turns out to be what you're not allowed to call a stewardess anymore. She's now CA, right? A cabin attendant. 1996, Johannesburg, South Africa, and he's working in a Chinese restaurant, cutting up live frogs with a.
I feel like really, as I said, like I think if you were deliberately given the job of making a film to smear the Chinese restaurant industry, this is the film.
Yeah. He's spitting in things, and the thing is, it's interesting as well, because apparently, according to the film,
not
everyone in South Africa
jerks off, not more than spitting, he jerks off into the meat. Right? Yeah.
Oh yeah, we'll get
to that.
that
scene completely.
And everyone in South Africa is racist. Like, the white people are racist, the black people are racist, the Chinese people are racist. Everyone just fucking hates everyone.
It's like Celine wrote this, the French, hate monger. It was like there's just a miasma of just like misery and despair and just grossness.
Yeah.
But yes, to Ron's point, he does use a piece of meat to jerk off into, and then just puts it back in the fridge. He's missed a trick there, because
then later feeds it to like a black guy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Because he's mean to him or whatever, or complains about the food or something.
Yeah. He's missed a trick there, because as everyone knows, what you should do is actually make a pot noodle, keep the top on, drain the liquid, and then drill a hole in the bottom of a pot noodle and fuck a pot noodle. That's
your go-to.
That really sounds like you are familiar with that's your experience.
One of my students told me about this.
I thought you were supposed to use an apple pie. No.
I have admitted I've never tried, because I'm always a bit worried about getting like an STD? If it's a spicy noodle. No, not from
that's the thing. I would say just maybe
don't add
the curry
from a pot noodle.
Don't add the curry packet. You don't need to add the curry powder.
Nick speaks from experience.
Anyway,
if you have any ideas about what you like to jerk off into, let us know at Nick says no to STD.com. And right. Yes. And what happens next? Oh yeah, so they go out into the bush, him and his boss, played by Shaw Brothers legend Lo Meng, right?
Yeah.
No less.
Mm-hmm.
And
He
yeah,
has some great
they go
sex
out to the bush
scenes,
to buy some
does Lowe.
pigs.
The sex scene where he because this is what I remember most about the film is the subtitles in that scene, and then I realized he's actually speaking in English this time. But the scene where he's having sex and he's like, what it is bird, it is pig, Superman. That stayed with me for all these years. I was looking forward to seeing that again.
So they go out into the bush to buy some pigs from some Zulus.
Mm-hmm. Which, fortunately, the village is under a fairly major Ebola epidemic.
Yeah, there's an Ebola outbreak.
And I like how they keep the pigs under some
camera
tarps.
to the left, Dustin Hoffman and Rene Russo are there, right? Kind of in hazmat suits.
Yes. But for the folks in the village, they just keep the pigs that they're buying right next to the corpses, which are also under a different, grass mat or whatever.
Yeah. Also helpful is a good way of keeping this under wraps is to like spit everywhere, right? That's another way to keep the outbreak contained.
Yeah, the chief is like bring waters with and spitting it.
It's fascinating as well. I've listened to a couple of commentaries on this film, and it's interesting how some people won't go anywhere near some stuff, right? Because this scene's always fascinated me because it's like, okay, on the one hand, I'm aware that you go to certain parts of the world and there definitely there are huge cultural gaps sometimes between some people over here and some people over there. But I've never been to South Africa. I've never traveled out in the bush, so I don't know how much of this is or whatever. But I'm interested, no one in any of the commentaries or anything, this bit, they talk about something else because I don't think anyone wants to mention, is this scene kind of quite racist or not? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I was actually wondering that as you're watching, because like, is this racist? Like I was wondering when I was watching, it was like, I mean, all of these actors had to sign on to this, right? Right. And I always wondered about, like, I guess, in the 90s was a different time, but like when people sign on to do like scenes which are blatantly racist for their own race, I was like, what kind of like inner turmoil do you have to go through to do that? Or is it real? Like, is it like a real thing?
Exactly. Yeah. Is that person just being exploited and being paid very little to suck a freshly ripped
to actually do a real Ebola, like, tribal dance? So.
And it's difficult to tell in the 90s because it's on the cusp. Because back in the 80s, when Hong Kong films were doing stuff, you could just, they totally went out and exploited these people in other countries. But the 90s is slightly, and for instance, I remember when we went on holiday to Papua New Guinea, and the local people would put on these shows and dances for us, and dancing with spears and stuff, and war dances, and typical kind of, what you think of when you think of deepest, darkest kind of wherever stuff. And you're thinking like, are they just doing this for us? Or like, do they normally do this?
No, I'm sure it was commodified.
Well, no, you say that, but then it's not that long ago. We were talking to one of our guides and they were telling us like within, yes, I ate human meat when I was a child, so it's not quite as clear cut.
No,
it's not quite like, we are just
that was
making
being
this
done
shit up.
for your eyes. That seems to me like that's a commodification of.
Yeah, but then again, it is also a tradition. It's not a tradition they still do,
right?
But it is a proper war dance. But they probably haven't done it. They have to dust it off for the visiting tourists, right?
But I would say that, I mean, I hesitate to give the movie a pass. But I will say, as you brought up before, it's so equal opportunity. So I'm not giving it a pass on racism, but it's such an equal opportunity. Like, I think
what you're saying, Nick, is there's good people on both sides, I think is what you're saying, isn't it?
That's not what I'm saying at all, Clive. No. But no, it's just like, the white people are kind of awful. The Chinese characters are awful. The African characters are not painted in the most positive light. It just feels like everyone's just...
So if I just translate what you're saying, I think what you're saying is we will not be replaced. Is that what you're saying? I think that's
No,
what...
no, that's
Oh,
also
right,
not what
sorry,
I'm
I
saying in
misjudged.
any way, shape, or form. Not being a racist, Clive. But yeah, no, I do feel that the film is, I don't know, it's hard to take seriously. So I
No,
think
no, absolutely. I think that's what it's...
you're
But
probably not
it's
getting it.
interesting that no one on any of the commentary tracks even went near it.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
they're just like,
I can-
okay, we'll just we'll
Yeah.
let that go.
Yeah.
In the same way as, with things like Cannibal Holocaust and stuff like that as well, right? To a certain
Yes.
extent. Anyway,
But so Anthony, being the gentleman that he is, sees a
Yes.
lady in trouble, having a seizure from her Ebola, brain liquefaction or whatever horrible things happening to her, and decides this is a great opportunity to assault her sexually.
but the funny thing about that, though, that's
He's
the thing about his
I
character.
love the line. He's like, I can't resist.
Well, what I like about his character is because the thing is, if he was just a despicable, horrible, total anti-human person, right? He would have just looked out of his van, had seen a woman collapsing, and just gone, fuck them, right? But
Yeah.
initially, he actually goes to
Trying
help.
to help
Right?
her.
But then halfway through, he goes, wow, look at those knockers. And
Mhm.
is what he says, I think. And he just can't, he can't help himself, right? And he's like, yeah, I'm going to have a dose of this, he says. But of course, she has Ebola.
Hmm.
And she ends up
Luckily
spitting all over him.
for Sir Anthony Wong, it turns out that he is the 1 in 10 million or whatever who will be the typhoid Mary of Ebola.
Yes.
Because he gets a really bad fever, but then doesn't have his internal organs liquefy. And spends the rest of the movie running around giving Ebola to everyone.
Yeah, because Ebola works really fast as well, from what I like really quickly.
One of the reasons why, unlike COVID or for example HIV, right, which has such a long gestation period, that you can travel, but apparently, you start to feel really sick within hours of getting Ebola, and so you're not getting on a plane and going anywhere, because within 48 hours you're basically dying. Or dead.
You bleed from all your orifices. It's a
truly terrifying disease.
But we're lucky. The thing is, that's the thing. People have been talking about what's the next thing after COVID, and the thing that scares me is something along the lines of Ebola that has a longer incubation process. That's proper scary, because that's just and similar story. I mean, COVID's still slightly shrouded, but similar story. Ebola, from what I remember, it kind of came from bat guano, I think, and it was.
That's what Dustin Hoffman said, anyway.
Yeah, and they kept, and I believe Dustin Hoffman,
who,
a friend of mine,
the great Dr. Hoffman.
Yes, but it was basically something that hadn't been approached for years and years, and then humanity encroached on a certain, and it was just so
it's up there waiting for us at the poles, or down there at the poles, as they
some Lovecraftian elder gods.
We're definitely fucked.
Are going to come and get us. But anyway, for the time being, Anthony Wong goes back to his restaurant, kills Xing Fuyon, and rapes his wife, sucks out her eyeball, which was an interesting.
Yeah, I'd forgotten that.
I'd forgotten about that. I don't know if that's in the uncut, but turns them into African burgers, as he puts them. So then starts an epidemic in Johannesburg and
so this is the reference, I think, to Untold Story, right? Because
So the bit where he kills the entire family and turns them into burgers is a bit of a remix version of what happens in Untold Story, which was a real case in Hong Kong where a family was turned into meat buns, right?
But I was they were Nikuman rather than hamburgers.
Yes. But then it does stop there, because
I did find it amusing. Like everyone kept going, fucking hamburgers at a Chinese restaurant? What the fuck is that
shit? So, but Anthony Wong also steals Xing Fuyon's money, so he returns to Hong Kong
and gets quite the glam up by putting on the little straw boater. And the little mustache. Like, he just looks like such a nerd.
It's all hotel suites and hookers as well, isn't it, when he gets back to Hong Kong? And of course he gets to spread Ebola in Hong Kong. Quite literally, I think that this is a cumulative film, right? Because you're enjoying it, but then when it gets discovered, like he is the Typhoid Mary character, whatever, and his response is just to run up and down the street shouting Ebola and wantingly spitting in people's faces,
Mhm.
accidentally killing the little girl he has hostage. That was a great moment.
Mhm.
Just like,
Yeah.
oh fuck,
Yeah.
sorry about that. Like,
Oh yeah.
accidentally just strangled her or something.
Mhm.
And it ends with some great flaming man stunts as well, and
Oh
a kind
God,
of,
yeah.
oh, it's
I
not
had
over
forgotten
yet.
that. That's incredible.
Yeah, but
It is in a
what
way
a
a remake
roller
of Panic in the
coaster,
Streets, isn't it?
huh?
It is kind of a remake of Panic in the Streets, isn't it, in some way, right?
Yes, as
Isn't that
well. Yeah.
the old it's a Jack Palance, right? It's like Anthony Wong's version of Jack Palance.
What a combination.
Hmm.
So yeah, so it's quite the roller coaster thrill ride, which I knew Nick, because the whole reason he's here is because he just got excited when I mentioned it.
And
But
it
the
had been a
question
while since
is,
I'd seen it, and it was one of those.
what did little Ron there? What did
Hmm.
Ron make of Ebola syndrome?
Sorry,
Did
Nick,
he
you
enjoy
were
it?
Oh no, I was
Clive
just no,
cut
actually,
you off yet again. So
no, I'll come back to it actually because it's better, I think, for you to
Oh, did I
speak.
cut you off? Sorry.
yeah.
Yeah, no, but I think you were right too. So I'm gonna.
Because I can't hear you very well. My speakers aren't working. And because I do it all the time anyway. There's
Yeah.
Yeah.
two combinations. Yeah.
Yes.
Ebola. Yeah, you know the one that it reminded. So you guys are all kind of like making connections with other Hong Kong movies. The movie that it reminded me of was Street Trash.
Oh yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Because
so
you didn't like it?
no, just because it was like this sort of like grim, disgusting, like just totally redeemless people and stuff. So I know I had the same kind of feel for
Cinema.
me, right?
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
almost its own genre. Yeah, like just gutter trash scuzz cinema.
Yeah, it was just scuzz and gross. All right. So,
Good films.
yeah, I texted you guys like, and I watched like 2/3 of it, and like my wife called me for dinner, and I was like, oh, I don't know. I was like, oh, I don't know if I really want to eat it
You
right
have
now.
hamburgers.
I was like, well, yeah, I
Picturing
mean, yeah,
Anthony Wong
it's
having sex with a hunk of pork.
yeah, I was like, oh, well, he's like, but it was, yeah, it was a cumulative effect, and yeah,
Sorry, we should mention that Ron is in fact married to the famous Hong Kong actor Anthony Wong, which is why.
yeah, well, he called me, yeah, so yeah, yeah, I got along with it quite well. Yeah, it was fine.
Oh.
Yeah, I thought it was good. It was, I had fun with it. Yeah, so I mean, it was gross, gross, but yeah, I got the joke. So I got it, the cumulative effect. So yeah,
I thought you might just
yeah.
about enjoy this, I thought.
Yeah. I thought it was a good fight. There was a couple parts I was like, oh, okay, that's
What?
even like I don't mind like gross stuff. It doesn't really bother me that much. But even for me, there was a couple things like, oh, yeah, it's a
I'm
little bit of
interested though. What do
yeah.
you think? Because you brought it up yourself. What do you think? What's the difference then between this and Street Trash, for example?
Well,
Because
as I said, when we did Street Trash, the
yeah,
thing that was that when I had seen Street Trash the first time, I didn't really have much to compare it to. So when we watched it again, I kind of found a new appreciation for it, and especially compared to the other shit that you make me watch, it was way better, right? So.
I love you too, Ron.
Now I have I have something to like a standard to compare it to. So yeah, but it definitely I don't know it had the same kind of like well feel
This is an interesting connection as well. Are you probably don't? I know Ron knows because I told him. But are you aware, Nick, that they recently remade Street Trash?
Oh, I think
and they remade it in South Africa.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet, but I'm quite keen to.
Interesting.
It's the guy who made Fried Barry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is the Steadicam work as impressive? Because that's the thing about Street Trash that's always
Right.
stunning is how good it actually looks for
Yes.
the subject matter and the acting.
But actually, you said that, Ron, almost apologetically, oh, you're comparing these things, but the only thing, actually, it is actually kind of an interesting comparison tonally, I would say.
Yeah,
Because,
that's where I got it.
Yeah, like you said as well, Nick, like it's not just a scuzzy film, it's a scuzzy film that's incredibly well made and incredibly well shot and moved.
And right? I think ultimately was meant to be kind of a comedy, really.
Yes, and they both run about 100 minutes.
Yeah, so
it's actually that.
And they both have people in them.
Yeah, and
do.
there's like a
They use
car
cameras.
in a scene, and but it's a better comparison than you might have originally.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know why it just particularly like as I watched, I was like, this really reminds me of Street Trash.
Yeah.
Just watching this, so I did.
Oh, it'd be a hell of a double bill.
But yeah,
Oh
sure.
yeah.
Yeah,
you have
with
all
ALFIE,
these
it was
gagging.
strange.
have lunch
I'm
in
pretty sure
between.
we're the only people who've ever double billed this movie with ALFIE, but yeah. So, but
Watching
yeah, it
those
was.
and Grand
Yeah,
Prix for
I thought it
lunch.
was good. It
That's
was good
good
fun.
fun.
I really
Yeah.
enjoyed it. I would get on board with these Kevin movies. That's okay. Yeah. So yeah. So I enjoyed the ride. So I was okay with it. So by the end, yeah. So
Okay.
yeah, but I don't mind movies like this. This kind of thing doesn't bother me most of the time.
You'd probably quite enjoy Taxi Hunter even more, I think, because that's even like that's a lot less scuzzy. Like it's more just like violent.
Oh, okay.
Untold Story is a great film as well. Yeah, if you got you might enjoy Untold Story as well. So we might slip that in one, and then years later, him and Yao and Anthony Wong kind of. I mean, they've done some other films as well, but in terms of Cat 3, they reunited for. Have you ever seen The Sleep Curse?
No, I haven't. No.
So their kind of big reunite gross out film that they did about a decade ago or something now, which was kind of quite good as well, actually.
Who did Dr. Lamb? That was another.
Dr. Lamb is another person whose name is. I've never got on with Dr. Lamb as well as although I do need to rewatch it, and that's Simon Yan. That's not Anthony Wong, right? So
yes, yeah.
Although Simon Yan, another great Hong Kong psycho, but Anthony Wong is in a category of his own. Category
5,
right? Yeah.
So for me,
is there one more thing I want to mention that interestingly enough, like there's so much gross shit that happens in this movie. You know, the one thing that I don't know, and I don't know why it did, but the one thing that kind of like stuck with me the most as being just the almost too far was when he pisses himself. And,
okay.
Yeah, I don't know why that was, because it seems like that's just such a normal thing, and I teach kindergarten too, so I'm sure it doesn't really matter. But at the same time, it's sort of like it happens all the time. But for some reason, just like him pissing himself and just kind of going, meh, and then like going to the fucking girl, like it was turned my stomach so much. I don't know what it was. Yeah.
It might be something to do with. I mean, we're all of a certain age now. There's no shame in this. It could, because at a certain point after you cross the line of 40, you know that thing, like if you go to a urinal sometimes and you pee and you pee and you pee and you shake it and everything and you think, okay, it's all gone, and then you slip it back in.
Get that final squirt.
Yeah. And the thing is, if you're wearing like beige trousers or something, you're like, oh fuck. Oh, for fuck's sake. And you've been so careful, but so it might be because it's too close to maybe something that might potentially happen in real life. You're less
I don't know, like up until that point, like it was like, okay, he's just sort of like this violent kind of creep. But now like that made him like put him at a totally different level for me at that point. Like he became like an almost like a just like totally irredeemable at that point. Like I don't know why it was that it did it, but anyway,
he's
so
great. He's so
that was interesting reflection
like
for myself.
When he goes to that woman and he's trying to, his mate tells him, oh yeah, she's a hooker or whatever, and he's there like, hey, pay money, me, and he's just crying tits and stuff, and she's like, get the fuck out of here, and he doesn't get it at all, right? Like he's
he's like trying to pull her, like.
Funnily, for me, actually, watching it this time, I think the most disturbing scenes were not like the, having sex with the meat or any of that stuff. It was actually quite near the end when he's just kind of, you get these scenes of him like leaning in to kiss people, and he's like,
oh yeah,
that stuff was just skin crawling.
When you can see the microbes in his mouth.
Yeah.
But again, I think that might be a post-COVID thing as well, right?
Sure.
Like, where we all feel that little bit more vulnerable than we did.
But I would say for me, because it's probably been over a decade since I've watched it, and we've talked about this before many times, Clive, with the when you never quite know when returning to something, is this going to be like as good as you remembered? Is it going to be a disappointment, or is it going to be better? And this for me was better. I came back to it and I was like, I've forgotten how propulsive the film is. Given the running time is more than 90 minutes, I never once was like, ooh, how much longer is this?
Oh, it shifts. It shifts like a motherfucker.
Goes. And then he's running down the street fully engulfed in flames, still screaming Ebola and spitting at people. And you're just like, holy shit. and then the piece of music, which is, I guess, specifically recorded for the film. It's not borrowed from something else. This kind of weird banshee wailing that kind of plays over this kind of, yeah, it's effective. It just adds to the whole madness of it all. So
we all enjoyed Ebola syndrome then.
seems like it. Yeah. I mean, I would recommend The Disease to anyone. For a good 48 hours, definitely.
Although I suppose it is one of those films, like, even though we all enjoyed it, it is.
Yeah, who do you recommend this to?
Yeah.
Nobody. You don't even talk publicly about. I'm not sure why we're talking about the film publicly. This is something you talk about in darkened corners of.
I think you'd only talk, like, if someone you thought, okay, this person has a sense of humor, then you're probably okay, right?
A certain kind of sense of humor. My dad has a pretty good sense of humor, but I don't know that I'm going to be recommending Ebola syndrome to him.
Oh, your dad would love Ebola syndrome.
Maybe he would.
Yeah. I've never met him, but he would. I know that fact.
So yes, so I do like that. How do you make a smooth segue from this to 1966's?
Well,
ALFIE?
let's leave it to Ron. So
thanks,
Ron. What did you choose, and what was your connection? And in case you forgot, it's Playboy.
Right.
Yeah.
So I chose another person with Ebola. No, there we go. Or can you say Ebola like Michael Caine?
Ebola.
Not bad. Ebola.
Not bad.
Ebola. Yeah. So I didn't have much of a connection to Wild at Heart, so I decided to go with the one thing that we talked about with Wild at Heart, which was that it was interesting how they really tried to make the main character like so unlikable, but you were still supposed to root for him because he's Nick, you probably haven't seen it, but basically it's like he's got a wife, but he basically just like fucks as many women as he can, and they all kind of like at the end they all find him and find out that he's been kind of cheating on all of them with each other, and then they punish him by getting naked and all fucking him at the same time. And so it was like and then while he's off screwing one girl, he's got his friend pretending to be him with his wife, and and all in the bathroom and stuff. Like I was like, but the whole thing kind of confused me because I was like, are we supposed to be rooting for this guy, or are we supposed to want him to get caught?
Well, you say all this, Rod, but you're talking to the wrong guy, because you don't know under which circumstances Nick had to leave Tokyo, of course. He got himself into a real pickle.
Yeah, this is true, yes.
Is it? No, care to tell?
It's not at all true. I am so incredibly unsophisticated and ungifted in the art of picking up ladies that I'm as far from fucking ALFIE or whoever
I think we all are, right?
We
all lucked into marriages that were just like, but don't leave us. We'll never get it again.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I was kind of like thinking like, oh, is there any other movies that are like this where you're supposed to kind of root for the main character?
The unmitigated cad and bounder.
Yeah, the count, right? Cad.
Yeah.
And so after doing a quick Google search, kind of one of the main ones that came up was this movie, and I was like, oh yeah, no, I actually have never seen this movie, so I thought, oh, I might as well want to give it a shot. It's something that I had never experienced before, so I thought, and luckily you'd never seen it either, so I gave it both a new experience. Clive, you've seen it, I assume.
Yeah, I've seen ALFIE a few times over the years. It's a pretty major film in the UK. Like,
right, yeah. I mean, it's very famous. I mean, I've even heard of it, but it's just never kind of crossed my list.
I get the sense it did play in like North America, for example, but I don't think it ever became the kind of touchstone that it did in the UK. Like it was a proper film that everyone saw of a certain demographic, I think, and it plays on TV a lot. And
didn't expect it to be so kitchen sinky, I have to say. It had more of that kind of angry young men Saturday night, Sunday morning thing going on.
Yes, I think
I thought it was going to be breezier and more fun, and I was like, ooh,
that's the kind of weird thing about it, isn't it? Is because I think its reputation is a little bit like people seem to remember it as a bit of a blimey, that ALFIE, he's got all the birds, kind of like lifestyle to kind of to admire kind of thing. People seem to remember it that way, but it's not that.
It's not. It's not at all.
No,
Yeah.
No,
it's
no.
not.
And
It's not even swinging London. Like when they have the exterior shots of London, it looks kind of dark and grim. It's not Austin Powers, Carnaby Street,
factory looking,
and it's not even like
dressy.
Beatles and Rolling Stones and stuff like that. It's kind of like jazz and stuff. So it kind of feels like probably, to be honest, what London probably felt like for most people. Like it was swinging London for like 5% of people living around Carnaby Street, and then for everyone else it was kind of like
Alfie.
this. Yeah, it was Alfie. Yeah.
Yeah. And interestingly, because I chose it because I wanted to have another movie that had like let's hope that he gets away with, fucking all the birds, but that's not this movie either, right? Like he's quite, I guess, an anti-hero, I guess, everybody's, he's rather unlikable, or I guess.
Oh yeah. I watched this with my wife and she
hates him. Yeah.
And the character, the whole film.
Oh, he's super smug. Isn't he?
Yeah, he's so smug. Yes, like a sociopath, right? So,
and the fact that he refers to all of his women as it.
Yeah.
In that way, it's actually, it is quite prescient in terms of like the kind of the Andrew Tate, that whole thing of now, right? That kind of whole like incel / kind of like gaslighting stuff, like because he gaslights all of these women constantly.
Yeah. He's not quite incel. That's a slightly different thing.
He's not incel.
But he is actually getting laid.
Yes.
That's a slightly different type of problematic.
But the attitude of like women as objects or whatever, and as like.
Although I would say, watching it this time, I was kind of surprised because I remembered it a bit more along the lines of I'm shagging here, I'm shagging there, and then he's kind of realizes that the kind of
consequences.
The lack of not just the consequences, but also just the kind of where's this leading kind of thing, like the kind of
lack all about
anything. Yeah, exactly. But what I was surprised at this time about it a little bit is kind of from the get, or his lifestyle isn't actually that exciting. Like at no point did I think, whoa, it's all
I want to be this guy. I was expecting it to be kind of like, all the guys want to be him, but I never wanted to be this guy.
Meeting married women in like cars and things, and like and it all seems very seedy, and it's never anyone like super kind of glamorous, and it's always there's always that undercurrent of he seems to be slightly more aware. Like I don't know, I just got the sense that from the get-go that this time that he's fooling himself more than he's having a great time. It didn't seem like a great time to me.
I think you're right. I think it's threaded from you're right, for all the way through the beginning, and it just gets darker as it goes. But like the darkness is in the very first scene.
But I'm curious because like I think that was pretty clear that it was quite dark, and that you're not really supposed to. You're supposed to kind of like feel almost sorry for him, and that he just doesn't get what a shit
because
he's giving for himself.
Yeah,
right. It's like of course you feel more sorry for his women, but like just he's so fucking clueless about what an asshole he is, right?
Because like when Jane Asher leaves him, for instance, his first response is to run out and say, "Oh, I'm sorry" or whatever. Like he doesn't just go, "That's another one bites the dust." Like he does seem to kind of be somewhat vulnerable, and then kind of just sucks it up, and he's like, "Oh, fucking other one's going," like. But his initial response is he's a lot more sensitive, I think, than
I'm curious because you said that everyone kind of thinks of this movie as kind of like the swinging 60s thing. Did people get that in the 60s, or when it came out, or is that something that we just get now with
I don't know.
a modern lens?
It might also just be me kind of misremembering it as well, but just because the thing is it's tied in with Michael Caine, because that's the thing. It's not Michael Caine is Alfie. Alfie is Michael Caine. They're not, but I think that this is the film that really made Michael Caine, right?
Right.
And for decades and decades and decades, people thought of Michael Caine as Alfie as Michael Caine. And it's part of that whole swinging good times thing. And it seems like such a linchpin of that But then, yeah, when you actually see it, you're like, oh, what a grim little film. So
Yeah.
it's
I
kind of
wonder if it's a bit like,
difficult.
you know, Saturday Night Fever is another film I think has this same,
Yes,
where everyone thinks of it as this like Bee
yes,
Gees dance film, and then they watch it and they're like, what the
massively
fuck
What?
was
grim.
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, yeah, no,
You
that's
know,
a good comparison, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but as to your question, if it played that way in this, I don't know, or if it's just a bit of kind of like a cultural amnesia
and
or
I wonder
something.
too if people are like they're almost backwards mapping the kind of like Adventures of a Plumber's Mate kind of British sex comedy
Yeah,
that comes later, but back on thinking, oh, this is the beginnings of that.
or
But
maybe
it's
even a Dudley Moore as Arthur,
Yeah.
that
yes,
kind of
yes.
thing.
Kind of
No, as I said,
conflating them a little bit.
I was
Yeah,
surprised by
Yeah.
how much more, yeah, kitchen sink drama. So the guy who wrote it was Irish, which is I didn't know until I read about Bill Naughton.
yeah, he wrote the
Grew up,
play, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
he grew up in County Mayo, which
Oh,
then when watching it, I was kind of like, oh, the whole abortion scene makes more sense if he's Irish Catholic and is bringing you towards this moment of, because that's when in some ways he becomes his most loathsome and vulnerable, right? Is in that
yeah,
kind of last scene. And fucking Indiana Jones's boss shows up,
Denham Elliott.
Denholm Elliott,
Yeah,
which was
Oh
like,
yeah.
what's he doing there? He's going to send Michael Caine on a quest to get the Holy Grail. But yeah, he's great as well as just kind of that cold,
Denham Elliott's always
Yeah.
great.
yeah,
Yeah.
clammy looking abortionist. But yeah, I you know, like the scene where he slaps her, you know, after she's had the abortion, you're just like, fucking hell,
Yeah.
Michael, like Jesus wept. That's when I think my wife just completely was just like, fuck this
Oh,
movie,
this guy.
fuck him. Yeah, it's just
Yeah, but I'm also like, because I'm in the movie like portrays his women as being basically like just like enraptured by him, like he's like the second coming for these women, and they only leave him like only like unwillingly.
mhm.
So I don't know, what was that a 60s thing, or was it meant to be saying something? Was it meant to be a satire, or like was it
I think
meant to
it's still a
be
thing.
misogynistic? I couldn't quite put my
Yeah.
finger on it.
There does seem to be, certainly here in Japan, at least, in like certain famous musicians I can think of. There's something, and uh, Timothée Chalamet falls into this category a little bit as well. I'm not saying he's like that in real life, but the kind of there seems to be a certain appeal for a certain type of woman, of the kind of the guy, very much like Alfie, like who wants to be pampered, like who allows himself to be pampered and doesn't hide the fact that they want to be pampered. Somehow that does appeal to an awful lot more women than you might like to think it does. Do you know what I mean? So that bit of the film doesn't feel weird at all to me. Like that kind of makes sense. I've seen guys like this who they
Mhm.
just put a bit of polish on and they're just super confident, and they they're upfront. They say things which you think are like, fuck, can you get away with saying shit like that? But somehow the honesty of it
But
somehow
again,
winning to some
he's
people. It's
he's
like,
he's
all right,
engaged.
girl, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do this, and apparently that's like, oh, you're awesome, and
But he's engaged in negging from the get-go as well. Like
well,
he's telling
exactly,
her
yeah,
directly, he's saying like, you're pretty ugly and stuff like this. Like just
yeah, which
awful,
is
shitty
classic,
things to
yeah,
say to
but it
anyone.
works. That's the thing,
But it
Yeah.
seems to work
yeah.
for yeah. But then again, he's picking women. I mean, it's very much as a type, right? We see that across the film. He's picking women who
Yeah.
have low self-esteem,
That's
right?
why I
Over
keep
and over
negging
again.
Ron, and he's still doing the podcast with me. It
There
works.
Yeah.
you go. You're a
And
class act.
washing your floor.
Yeah.
um,
You
yeah, he
missed a
comes
spot.
Yeah. Well,
Um, yeah, and so the other thing that's interesting then is that there is the part where he flirts with being a gigolo, right? Because he gets together with Shelley Winters for a while, right? And then how
Great
that
scene.
plays out. Where, sorry,
Him and Shelley Winter's interaction when they first meet is fucking amazing, considering apparently neither of them understood what the other was saying, or apparently Shelley Winters didn't understand his accent. But that particular, when they first meet, is just,
oh, with the
you can
camera
see
on the
the
street.
chemistry is just is there.
Yes, yeah. And then yeah, he does experience. He finally has the thing reversed in him, right? When
Yes,
basically he's cuckolded by an even younger guy, and she says directly,
yeah,
"Well, you're he's younger than you,
Yeah.
and prettier than you, and he's like, oh, you know,
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
But
that's
overall,
fair enough,
kind of a
right? I
bummer,
think that scene is
honestly.
an interesting scene as well, because it's not just comeuppance, it's also just kind of like he doesn't argue about it. It's like, okay, I see. Oh yeah, okay, that makes sense to me, because we're seeing things on the same level, right? So yeah, okay, well played, almost, you know. Yeah, it's an interesting film. It's but to your point, Ron, I do wonder, like, if this film came out now, and of course there's a remake with
I was
Jude.
going to say with Jude
Yeah,
Law.
so that was my next question. Has
I've
anyone
never
seen the Jude Law
No,
remake?
no,
I
No.
haven't. No.
I'm curious if they've changed the approach at all, or if they just did a straight up
Well, what I was
remake.
going to say is now, maybe not in 2004, because 2004 seems like an age, a different epoch now.
Sure,
But
too, yeah.
this film, as it is now, released now, I think would actually not need any mending at all. Because I think in the current kind of climate we're in a little bit, this plays perfectly well. Or despicable playboy comeuppance, I think everyone would just lap it up. Post Me Too, it would be, with no nuance, it would be considered just absolutely. I don't think you'd have to tinker with it at all, really. But I don't know, in 1966, it seems as if it would have played very, very differently. And I think that there would have been a lot more people maybe slightly more sympathetic to Alfie, at least at the beginning of the film, which is maybe why it played so, like, people remember it, because it would have been more devastating. Whereas now it plays like quite good, but it's almost inevitable from the start for us now as modern viewers. You're watching and you're thinking, well, of course this isn't going to end well, right?
And well for him.
Not that he at the end of the film, there is a sense too that he hasn't necessarily learned a whole bunch.
Well, what's it all about?
It literally ends in a circle, right, with him like hitting on the same woman we saw.
He looks at the dog.
Beginning.
He knows it all. He's known it all along, right? That's the thing. He's known it deep down all along, but he's just had it confronted to him and shown to him, and he's had his heart ripped out. But yeah, he's not necessarily going to follow the straight and narrow, but he's just going to be slightly. He's been slightly wounded, right? He's going to have the spring in his step has been slightly hobbled, right? But I think he's probably still going to go on doing the same thing.
He's just slightly more reflective about it, I guess.
Yeah, that's all. But he's still going to kind of do it.
Yeah, you don't really. Well, yes, that's the thing. When you said he gets his comeuppance, I have to disagree that he actually got any comeuppance. I think he is hard ripped,
not as much as he deserves.
I think he kind of just went on as if nothing had happened. I think so.
Clive, you'll be pleased to know that the original Alfie was Bill Owen, who appeared on Last of the Summer Wine.
Oh, fantastic! Okay,
he played him in the radio play, and from the radio play, it was spun off into a stage play.
You can't really imagine anyone other than Michael Caine, really.
Well, Terence Stamp played him in the Broadway, so I think
that wouldn't work for me the same way. I know Terence Stamp is another icon, kind of pretty boy of the '60s, but he's not Michael Caine. He doesn't have that Cockney white boy thing.
Swagger.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. But apparently, and John Neville apparently played him. So there was several actors played the
John Neville. I can see. Yeah.
Before Michael, and then of course Michael Caine didn't return for the sequel. So did you watch the sequel, Clive, or not?
Well, no. We're doing it next for the next show.
Oh, I see. Yes. Interesting.
With not Eric Burden as the other guy from the Animals.
Yes.
Alan
Price is my
Yes, yeah. Alan Price is Alfie, which is why I want to see it, because I can't imagine that's any good. But I've always wanted to see it, so why not drag Ron along for the ride?
And it is apparently based on the original was a stage play and then adapted to cinema, but apparently Bill Naughton wrote a novel called Alfie Dearest. So this is an adaptation of the novel sequel to the movie, basically. So
anyway. There's a swinging party, 60s London, right, being held by Michael Caine, right, and he's got a couple of his dolly birds around there, and Jim Morrison and his band turn up, right, and Michael Caine's one of his girls is like, all right, go in there. I can't do the accent, obviously. He's like, I want you to sort them out. Jim Morrison and his band, give them all blowjobs, yeah? Sort them out. And she goes in and she's sucking off Jim Morrison and his band. And then some more people turn up. I think some members of the Rolling Stones, Mick Jagger, all this entourage from Carnaby Street, they turn up. They end up going into this room and there's this chick going down and I'll have some of that. And, and a few hours later, Michael Caine's wondering, like, where have all my guests gone? For some reason, I've lost the ability to do a Michael Caine accent since telling this anecdote. Anyway.
It's fine. It's possible.
Is it an anecdote or a joke?
And he goes into the room, and there's this one girl he's sent in there. It's all covered in jizz, and it's all over the walls, and there's all these, like, 3 dozen satiated-looking men. And Michael Caine says, I only told you to blow the bloody doors off. Good.
Thanks, Clive.
Went down well, Owen.
Wah, wah.
Yep.
All right.
Comedy gold. I think we'll agree. That's actually
Yes.
the worst that joke's ever gone down, ever. I think it might be because I've told that joke a few times and it's always a little bit, and then, but that one was just.
I'm just glad that it wasn't the, there's a chink in my armor joke. So we'll.
Well, I don't
the
know.
fact that it's not that joke.
Yeah.
There we go.
Anyway, so Blimey Charlie, we've done Ebola Syndrome and we've done ALFIE. I guess we're done. Oh, we forgot to mention it's directed by Lewis Gilbert, who next went on to make You Only Live Twice, one of 3 Bond films that he directed.
Actually,
including Moonraker.
While watching this, I did say to Jen, I thought, there's something in his dead eyes, because there's something about Michael Caine that he has this, and it's used very effectively in Get Carter, right? These terrifying dead eyes he's got. But I thought he actually would have made an all right Bond if he'd maybe bulked up just a little bit, getting a bit broader in the shoulders. I think he would have been. He has the feral, and he has that dead-eyed thing. I think he would have been a decent Bond.
But he'd have had to have do the public school accent he did in Zulu. He couldn't have done his Michael Caine accent.
Yes. No.
And I think he was too far along into being Michael Caine to suddenly switch to being Bond. Interesting that Lewis Gilbert, of course, later directed that film Shirley Valentine, which has the similar thing, breaking the fourth wall.
Right. Yeah, we didn't even mention the whole Ferris Bueller element of him constantly addressing the camera, which it didn't bother me. I thought it would annoy me more, but actually, I think
soundtrack by Sonny and Cher, but not that Sonny and Cher. Sonny Rollins and Cher singing the theme tune.
It's a decent little song.
Yeah.
I'll say the last thing I'll say is that it made me think like medical coverage in England in the 60s must have been fantastic, right? He goes off, he gets, I'm guessing a touch of TB is what he actually has, right? He's got a couple of shadows in his lungs and he goes off and spends 6 fucking months in a flower garden sitting around in a house coat.
Oh yeah, we should mention as well, yes. So he befriends Alfie Bass before shagging his missus. And I was wondering if because production designers for films, they kind of get up to all sorts of tricks that you don't necessarily realize, right? Because they have a job to do, which is always subconscious. But there's a point where his wife hands him a very, 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 very small banana. And I was, I was just kind of wondering, but well, like he says himself, right? Just before he's about to shag the nurse, it's amazing what you get on the NHS. I suppose the 2 lines that sum it up for me is when he's talking to Alfie Bass, and Alfie kind of says, I don't mean to do any harm, and he means it, and Alfie Bass looks at him and he goes, yeah, I know, but you do.
Yes.
So also a kind of a worthwhile film,
but
very different from Ebola Syndrome.
Yes, that's for sure.
Yeah, not the feel good film that Ebola is for sure.
Yeah, if you want a good time,
What's
watch
it all
Ebola Syndrome.
about? Ebola.